Okay. I think I could do this. Do you ever have a thing where, like, you start watching it and you're like, oh, I don't know, and then you keep watching it and suddenly it's consuming every waking moment of your life, and then, like, when your friends call you, they're like, what have you been doing? And suddenly you realize you can't even tell them that you've been watching an actual play show because they're not on the internet like you are. They're not huge nerds. The main association that they have with Dungeons and Dragons is that the little geeky kids on Stranger Things play it. Do you ever have that? Do you ever have a thing like that? I'm not going to explain to you the details of what Dimension 20 is because I'm assuming that if somehow you've stumbled upon to this video, you already know. And you should know because for this video I'm going to spoil almost every season of Dimension 20. The Intrepid Heroes seasons and then any of the seasons that one of those Intrepid Heroes is in. So Misfits and Magic and Mice and Murder. The M&Ms. But if you just, I don't know, found this video and you're like, what the fuck's Dimension 20? Or you know me, and for some reason you're watching this. First of all, deeply humiliating that you've come here. Secondly, Dimension 20 is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
At least within the past 2 years. I think that's true. The past 2 years have been bad. Dimension 20 is an actual play show run by what used to be College Humor and is now just Dropout, their streaming service. Professional comedians and role players create a beautiful story, and it's art, and no one's talking about it like art.
I feel like I'm on drugs.
People are talking about it like fans so far. Because actual play shows are such a new medium, I think that makes a lot of sense. This happened for a while with video games. There was a whole debate over whether video games are art, and that's pretty much died out at this point. I'm really trying not to go deep into, like, what an actual play show is and, like, what it means for the state of internet media, because I would really, really like to talk about that. But that's not what this video is here for. This video is here to explain to you my grand theory of Dimension 20. Well, one of my grand theories of Dimension 20, which is that all of the main cast, in every season they're in, they play the same character. Part 1, the Dimension 20 cast is smart and sexy and skilled, and they know what they're doing. Not only are they incredibly hot, but the Dimension 20 cast are professional storytellers with a ton of experience in different media. I'm pointing this out because the character you create as the role player often hints at something deep in your own psyche, and I don't want to psychoanalyze these people that I don't know. That's a level of parasociality that I'm not interested in participating in, at least in public. And that's why I'm pointing out that these people are professionals, not our friends, even though we would like them to be in some cases. They're not our dads. Brennan is not your dad, I'm sorry to say. You don't know them, and you don't know their inner life. So me pointing out these patterns in their characters, I'm not trying to say that it explains their, like, inner wound or some shit. I'm doing this because I think it's interesting that I found a pattern for everybody, like, on its face, but also that I think rather than hinting at something deep within each individual, it probably more illustrates the fact that these people are really good at working together, and they have found a group dynamic that works really well, and they kind of nailed that in the first season of Fantasy High. Every cast member either has, like, similar themes going on with all of their characters, or they have a very similar game of the character. I'll talk about what that means when I get to it. This shit goes deep. It goes deep, man. Part 2, Siobhan Thompson, the prodigal daughter. All of her characters, every single one of them, hinges on the complications of having a family. So let's think about who I'm talking about here. I'm talking about Adaine Abernant.
I'm Adaine Abernant.
They later say Adaine, but originally it was Adaine. Tell me you're a real Dimension 20 fan without telling me you're a real Eagle Lazowski, Misty Moore, and Ruby Rocks. Each of these characters are dealing with issues within their family unit. Adaine, pretty obvious. Her parents are neglectful, and they have a completely different worldview than she does. Adaine wants to be like a cool and good person, and her parents want to be shit. Adaine has a ton of empathy for people around her. Adaine's parents are very different from her. They have a very myopic worldview. They really only care about themselves. Then we have Ruby Rocks, another pretty obvious one. She doesn't want to be a princess.
I'm a circus apprentice. That's like my big thing right now. Like the royal stuff is like really secondary to me. It's just like I was born into it. It's not really very interesting to me.
She doesn't want to fulfill the duties that entails, and she is not willing to face the responsibility that her position gives to her. And obviously that position is inherited, so it all has to do with her family. But it's also like the dynamic between her father and her is one more of friendship than of a father-daughter relationship.
I heard y'all pulled one over on the pan.
Yeah, we did the old straw man that you taught us.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very,
That's a
very
good one.
good. It worked
hated
so well.
lessons. I mean, it always works. I mean, you just...
And she has a lot of tension with her mother, who sees Ruby for all of her faults and treats her very harshly because of that.
You two girls can miss the first 90 minutes of your feast tonight to complete the lesson that you missed with Chancellor Le Pen.
You two women.
It would be my fondest wish to behold two women grown. I have yet to behold such a thing. What I see are petulant, rude, obnoxious, ill-behaved children.
And then we got Iga Lazowski. Iga's pulled in two different directions. She's got her ancestors who are pissed at her that she moves to New York and really want her to keep up tradition as much as possible.
It is not Jessica who is the bad witch.
Boy,
It
here we go.
is Ida!
Yes, okay, I'm bad. I hear it.
course.
I'm bad. I'm
Of
so
course you
bad.
And she doesn't agree with them. And then she's got her daughter who wants to be a completely Americanized person and doesn't want to have anything to do with her Polish heritage.
It would be great if we could just get regular snacks from the store, like Oreos and chips and stuff like that, and not make a bunch of Polish snacks for my friends.
So the Polish snacks you're too good for Polish snacks now?
As well as magic in general, which, girl, come on, why?
She's not reacting well to my trying to teach her and introduce her to this stuff.
Just, Mom, I don't want to go.
Sometimes you got to do things that you don't want to do.
What teenage girl wouldn't be like, give me that magic, give me that magic? And obviously Ego wants her daughter to be incorporated into the Unsleeping City and know the magical world, and more importantly, be tied to her ancestral roots. The one that you might be like, Jamie, Misty Moore, she doesn't fit into this. But riddle me this. What is her arc all about? If Misty has an arc, which I think she does, it's just not as dramatic as, say, like Pete's or even Kingston or Sophia's or Kugrash, obviously. I mean, Kugrash's arc. Don't talk to me about Kugrash's arc. We can't talk about that right now. I have other things that I need to talk about. But think about Misty's arc. Misty's arc is about how she has completely separated herself from the land of Fairy. And by the end, she has staked out a place within Fairy that also is in the Unsleeping City. Like, it's this beautiful amalgamation of her past and her present/future.
This is cool. I just did a very cool thing.
And Fairy, like, Fairy is her family.
Well, I know so many people here. It's been such a long time. It's like, oh my God, how's your cousin? Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Misty Moore is essentially somebody who ran away from home, stole her mom's shoes, was like, fuck you to everybody, because their system of governance was not for her. Their lifestyle was not for her. She was like a little rebellious kid. She did that for like hundreds of years. Then she beats up her mom.
I killed my queen. This is America. We don't have royalty here.
And she creates a new form of government. But like, that's kind of the same thing as what's going on with Iga's story, right? Of like incorporating this idea of like the individual and the family unit, and then you become one. All these characters' viewpoints or moral codes are fundamentally at odds with their family unit, especially at the very beginning of the story. Characters learn to accept this and deal with it, and that is the nature of all of their arcs. Adaine accepts that her family has left her in season 1.
They didn't call me. They didn't come and visit me in prison. They
Your
didn't
mom
help.
kinda-
They started
that's
a
kinda
war to
sweet.
get my sister out and didn't come to see me.
A quick detect magic from you shows that a powerful teleport spell was cast here.
Cowards.
In season 2, we see her reckoning with what the consequences of that actually mean. She literally defeats her father. Like, that is the pinnacle, that is the high of Adaine's arc.
So I look him in the face, hold my fist up to him and say, guess what, bitch, I'm strong now.
Your father is dead as he leaves the ground.
Ruby starts the story not being interested in the royal family. When she loses Jet, the more alpha sister, then she really has the opportunity to find out what her identity is within this family. And then we get to the core question at the end of A Crown of Candy, which is, are Ruby and Saccharina sisters, or is Saccharina her queen?
You're not my sister, and you're not my queen. I can't have both. I'm sorry. You can't be both to me. If you want to be my sister, be my sister, and if you want to be my queen, but I'm sorry, I cannot give you both.
Misty has accepted that she is different from Fairy long before the story starts, and I think it's a really cute little idea that she creates a democracy in Fairy rather than having a monarchy. It's cute, it's adorable.
This is America. This is the land of hope and dreams of democracy. And we're coming here and saying that I get to create a court and I'm leading this court, and it's no. Absolutely not. The will of the people must stand.
It's like, ooh, Misty's incorporating the democratic ideals of the human world. Ideals, not realities, ideals. And then you have Iga, who's been burdened by this idea that she's neglected her ancestry by moving to New York. But by the end, she really accepts that, like, it was the right thing for her family. She is a New Yorker, and she is part of the Unsleeping City.
You're the different one. You are the one that came here.
The important thing is family and keeping the family safe. But also, she does love the city, and she loves her life here, and she loves that her children love their lives here.
And she also finds a way to bring the next generation, her daughter and also her son, into the magical world in the Unsleeping City.
It might be interesting to like go and explore the castle together someday, because I feel like there's a lot of questions about the castle's relationship to the box and sort of how it works that I think could be like really cool to do together if you wanted to.
I would love to do that. Maybe we can do it together. It's a group project. We can go through.
But also their ancestry. So once again, Siobhan's characters are all about family, all about what it means to be in a family and finding your role in a family unit and becoming an adult and an individual within a family unit. Now let's talk about Lou Wilson. Lou plays the leader in every single one. There's behind the scenes footage of everybody talking about the creation of the Crown of Candy, and they all say Lou is the only one who could have played the king. They say that they basically bullied him into playing King Amethar.
It was not my idea. Other people were like, you should be king. And I was like, okay.
I think we all bullied Lou into being the king.
There was a moment where we all looked at Lou and we were like, be the king, Lou. Like,
I think this is partially because they already had established the dynamic of their group, which was that Lou, who, by the way, is the youngest cast member, so you know he's got the gravitas if he's always playing the leader, but that Lou was always thrust into leadership positions in all of his characters. Every character of his has high status. He's either rich like Fabian, or he's well-respected, or both. And something about them, either like the circumstances of their birth, so that would be true about Amethar or Fabian, their talent, so Fabian, Kingston, and even Whitney Jammer from Misfits Magic.
I mean, I'm unreal at sport.
Or just their inherent goodness, which is true about Kingston and Whitney Jammer. One of these things has thrust them into a position of leadership. Every one of Lou's characters' main focuses is the team unit.
You know, that's some good team energy.
So let's talk about this, right? Amethar is a king. Is he a good king? Is he being the best king he could be right now? Maybe not, but he's a king.
this had the seal of the emperor.
Oh. So what's that mean?
He's in a position of leadership. He's the king. Fabian.
I'm Fabian Seacaster, son of Bill Seacaster.
He thinks that he should be a leader and therefore just kind of is. He's got the energy of a leader.
We both know that I have the skittles to be a champion. And I'm here to be great!
He bosses people around and he gets away with it, so you know he's high status. Then there's Kingston. The fact that Kingston is called the voice of the people delineates him as a leader. Whitney starts out the captain of his basketball team. The whole repeated joke of that character, which is called the game, which again I will get into later. He's obsessed with the team.
I mean, that's the team. That's everybody doing their part, you know, sharing the rocks, like making it happen. I look at him and I go, Gold House!
He creates this cheer as a way to get people hyped up, to strengthen their tie to their in-group.
Gold House on 3, family on 6. 1, 2, 3,
Gold House.
4, 5, 6,
Family.
And that relates to what I want to say next. Wow, transitions. I'm so good at this. It's almost like I took notes. All of these characters have a deep tie to their in-group. So Fabian immediately wants to become captain of a crew, and once he finds his buddies, he bosses them around, and it's really not a question for him that he's gonna stick with them, even though he has the air of somebody who's much more traditionally popular than a lot of the gang. Then we've got Amethar, who does love Candia, but isn't super nationalist. He's much more about a smaller in-group. He loves his family, and he loves his sisters.
Your sisters were some of the greatest heroes Candia has ever known.
The greatest heroes.
But the thing that I find more interesting about Amethar is just his unquestioned loyalty to anyone who has fought in the war beside him. Which leads to a very shocking betrayal.
That motherfucking piece of cake in those hot ass pants.
And then we have Kingston. All of his power comes from the fact that he feels tied to the city of New York. It comes from the fact that he loves his in-group. His in-group are New Yorkers.
The entire city, you can hear, thanks, Kingston, thank you. Thanks, Kingston, thank you, thank you. And all of those thank yous flooding into Kingston's body.
However, like Siobhan's characters, all these characters also have a similar arc to them. So a deep loss for each of them is somehow connected to their power. And by power, I don't mean like Kingston's magics. I mean like their social power. Or the deep loss is connected to their original perception of what their power entails. Amethar's loss is very obvious and is repeated constantly.
I've got a green pop rock candy beard and all of the, in my opinion, unnecessary accoutrements of the king of Candia, which I am. For some reason.
First off, he didn't even ever want to be king, but secondly, the only reason he's king is that his 4 beloved sisters are all dead.
It's the girls' 18th Saints Day. It's really exciting. I think you guys would like each other a lot. They're real special. And they take a lot after you guys, and I mean, it's hard enough being a father and a king.
He has this deep sadness tied to his position of leadership that he can't move on from. The first time God damn it, Lil. My cat's using the litter box. There she goes. The first time we see him, he's talking to his dead sisters and saying that he shouldn't have been king.
God, you guys would have been so good at this. I'm not cut out for this.
And then Fabian's loss is his conception of his own identity. First off, Fabian feels obligated to be a leader because he idolizes his dad.
Is that relatable to your experience? We're the same, you and I.
We are. Yes, we are, Papa.
And his dad was a captain, and his dad expects him to be a captain. And Fabian doesn't really see anything wrong with that until he bonds with a group of friends and he realizes that's not really what I want. I want to be their friend, not their leader. So Fabian's plot ends up being about how he can express himself individually while incorporating what he loves from both his father's side, which he revered even at the beginning, and the side of his mother, and kind of combine them into his own identity and create his own kind of form of leadership from that, but also become an individual and express himself and not be afraid if he's not always being a leader.
Great job, everybody. Can I take his cape and wrap it around his shoulders and tie it on like that sheet and tie it on like a cape?
You are wearing a sheet tied around you like a superhero.
You got that fire in your belly now. I do. You got that fire in your belly. Yeah, I do, the ball. Yeah, I do, Gorgug. Yeah. Yeah! Let's go!
And then we've got Kingston, who, as we learn in the Museum of Memories, in the kind of like It's a Wonderful Life style montage situation, he has made huge personal sacrifices for the city, even before he was the Vox Populi.
This is a potential for Kingston to really shine. And you see your parents kind of look at each other and look at Kingston.
I can't. Not when Grandma's sick. Maybe we can talk about it in the future, but I'm sorry, but I need to be here.
Think of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy to do, but there has to be a way to make this work here.
Those personal sacrifices have allowed him to obtain that power, but he also has to keep making sacrifices even once he becomes a Vox Populi in order to fulfill his duties.
We could have a house, we could have a car, we could have kids.
I can't leave the city. I've explained this before, all right? You can go, but I have to be here.
Where am I? You could get your doctorate and we could have a good life together.
That's not a good life, not for me. My good life is here and with you, but it has to be here.
You see, she looks and says, then I think our lives shouldn't be together.
I live in a fucking cartoon now.
You don't live, this is not a cartoon.
Because of you, I live in a fucking cartoon.
This is New York City. This is the real thing.
Oh, a horsewoman just brought you a cup of water, and these two pixies I gotta put away for attacking.
She's a goddamn centaur.
I will admit right now that Whitney Jammer is the exception to this last part of having a deep loss connected to a power, a position of leadership. But also, Whit doesn't have a ton of an arc, so that kind of makes sense. All right, moving on. Now I'm going to talk about Brian Murphy, aka Murph. I've called his characters the Crusader. Emily has called Murph a real-life paladin. He loves rules. The man loves rules.
We're rules guys.
We're rules guys. Yeah. You gotta play by the rules.
And Murph's characters those guys are some lawful motherfuckers. Each of them has a mission, and they believe this mission makes them a good or worthwhile person. Starting with Riz, obviously he wants to solve the case of his missing babysitter, but even greater than that, he wants to be a successful private investigator.
I'm a licensed private investigator.
And he's kind of obsessed with this idea in a righteous way. He believes what he is doing is just, and he believes it's the right thing to do, is to solve mysteries.
Sweetie, you know that it's not great that you're doing this, right?
Well, they're missing.
Then we've got Kugrash. Kugrash's mission is to look after the ignored and the outright hated of New York.
Juiciest fucking cockroach you've ever seen. It's the cockroach. I'm doing it. Feel strong.
He definitely believes this mission is a just one and is a way to redeem himself from his past crimes.
I wasn't a good guy. She turned me into a rat because I'm a rat.
Theo's mission is pretty obvious at the beginning, but it becomes a little bit more complicated as we move through the story. Theo's mission throughout is to protect the crown of Candia. That gets a little bit more complicated once he runs into the quandary of whether to stick by the Rox family as he has before or align with Saccharina. And it's kind of revealed that in reality his crusade was always to protect the future that Lazuli predicted.
Magic is a lot of things. It's more than I think any priest or mage imagines that it might be. Maybe even more than the spirits who claim to control it can imagine it to be. How exciting.
And then we got Cody. Cody wants to save them all.
Yeah, I'm not from fucking Transylvania. I worked at the fucking Hot Topic that you're fucking destroying. You see another dude, where's your sword?
Each of these characters' absolute dedication to their mission contributes to their low status because they each have become grunts or so obsessed with what they're doing that they actually don't care about social cues.
I don't have a lot of friends, even though I'm pretty social, which is weird.
Each of them has sacrificed social happiness and material needs for the sake of their cause. Kugrash would probably do some magic and have a lot nicer of a place to sleep, but he chooses to sleep in the subways.
I made breakfast!
This is fucking awesome. I live in a house now.
Theobald has absolutely no game, and I think we can easily assume that the man doesn't fuck.
You're a real soft, squishy little bear.
Yeah, I'm the squishiest, and I heard the queen likes some squishy.
Yeah, real squishy.
I'm a squishy bear.
I bet a little Axe would have no problem getting into that soft little tum-tum.
Yeah, probably wouldn't. What are you gonna do about it, huh?
Yeah,
you take
that armor off sometime, you
I
lose.
might.
Are we gonna fuck?
Riz is very socially awkward and hasn't been interested in cultivating the skills to get a lot of friends.
Start with the friends. then get the clues.
He kind of just stumbles into a friend group serendipitously, and Cody is ready to sign his damn soul away so that he can save the Hot Topic.
And I will sell my soul just in a second.
Holy
Fucking take my soul.
shit! You just broached that topic. I didn't have to set anything up.
So what's interesting here is that Lou always plays a high status character, and Riz always plays a Riz. Riz is my main man, and that's why I think of Murph as Riz. And I'm sorry, that was a real Freudian slip.
I think it's beautiful. Then I do a dance. I think it's beautiful and everything's fine here.
Riz.
Everything's fine and good, isn't it?
Anyways, Lou always plays a high status character, and Murph always plays low status. But each of their characters have arcs that are fueled by this background of loss, which, to be fair, is a pretty classic character creation tool. Having some type of loss or wound in the past, it's pretty normal. If you're reading like John Truby or like Save the Cat or any of that shit, you know that characters generally have some big loss in their history. But this isn't a universal tool. Like, you don't have to have a huge ghost in your backstory. That's what John Truby calls it. John Truby calls it a ghost. And it is the most true of Murph and Lou's characters. And it's just interesting, you know, like the guy who always plays high status has a deep loss connected to his high status, and the guy who always plays low status has a deep loss connected to his low status. That's wild. But anyways, back to Murph. Riz has his dead dad, who he idolizes and wants to be like, even though he didn't really know him very well.
You're conflicted. Like, your dad, when you were a kid, never was fucking around. You know? He was gone. And the image you had of him, of course you would like sanctify someone that was never there.
Kugrash made this huge mistake in his past, which he's trying to make up for constantly.
So I'm sorry. I can only try to do good things. I can't fix what I did.
And that is why he has a cause in the first place. Theobald is not only tied to the crown of Candia by his oath, but also his history with Lazuli, who, once again, was his idol.
Have you ever taken a study in magic, interested in magic at all, or you're one of those sort of soldiers that...
I suppose I don't know what goes into it. It doesn't seem like the type of thing I should be able to do.
Why?
Theobald just stares forward for like a full minute. I guess I haven't asked that.
Your first order, and the first order I give you, above all else, that you must follow till your dying day on your very nightly vows. Think for yourself and be curious.
Pull out a scroll and write down her exact words.
And Cody's on the verge of losing them all.
Where's your sword, bro?
All right, so we've got the prodigal daughter, the leader, the crusader. Who could possibly be next but the wife of the person I just talked about? It's Emily Axford. We're going to talk about my girl, Emily Axford.
These people are professionals, not our friends.
I expect a lot of people to come to this video and say, oh, Emily always plays chaos. And that is not untrue. Probably with the exception of Saccharina, who I would argue is not the most chaotic character, Emily tends to make chaotic moves. But I think there's something more that binds her characters together. And that is the fact that they all have big feelings about men. Just wait, hear me out. I've called Emily the lover. The crux of each of her characters are their relationships to the most important men in their lives. What Emily does with female characters and their relationships with men is super interesting. So let's review the characters we've got here again. So we have Jet Rocks, Saccharina Frostwhip, Sophia Lee, Not Bicicleta, and Fig Faith. Who are the male characters I'm talking about here? Well, let's go through them. With Jet, she looks up to her father and wants to emulate him.
Is it my fault if I prefer to learn the history of war from my father, who was actually there?
That's a daddy-daughter special.
That's a daddy-daughter special.
That's a daddy-daughter special.
Her father is the person whose love and affection means the most to her. Then we've got Saccharina, who has pretty much a similar situation.
I said, that's a daddy-daughter special.
We're about to get another daddy-daughter special.
Let's be real, all the back half of A Crown of Candy really wouldn't have happened without Saccharina's deep desire to be accepted by the family, but particularly by her father.
I always hoped that I would meet you someday. I knew that I would have to sort of earn the love that you're other daughters so naturally got, but I thought I don't know.
Sophia, I mean, do we even have to say it? It's Dale, whom we stand.
All I wanted to do was just watch the deer in the backyard.
And then lest we forget, at the beginning of Fantasy High, Gorgug was not the only one looking for his father. Fig was looking for her father.
Who's my dad?
God damn it, I'm not...
Who's my dad?
I can't tell you who your dad is Galir, who raised you and loves you. Okay?
That tool.
So Fig's relationships with Galir and who we eventually learn is her father, Gorthalax.
The sound of your father's distant motorcycle far away.
Especially in season 1 are the most important relationships in her life. At the beginning of each of these characters' stories, their feelings of being loved and accepted have been somehow disrupted, either because the male figure is absent or not giving her what she needs in that moment. So for Sophia, you've got Dale, who at the beginning she thinks has left her.
Marriage was the best thing that ever happened to me, and you have a lot to look forward to. And, you know, I hope he makes you a slippery nipple every night before you go to bed.
Then it is eventually revealed that he's just straight up dead. Sophia spends the first half of season 1 of Unsleeping City being really upset that her husband has left her. Then she spends the second half of that season being really upset that he's dead. She spends all of season 2 trying to make him not be dead anymore. Like, girl.
One man, strong.
Yeah,
virile.
He was strong. He was virile. We had a really quiet, beautiful relationship, but also a nasty sex life.
Oh, that sounds honest.
Dale's her emotional core. Dale's the thing that she always goes back to. Dale is the person on whom her character arc rests. Then we've got Jet, who has Amethar as a father. And as I've said before, Amethar at the beginning of the story isn't really behaving like a father. He's not aligning with their mother.
It's St. Saints Day. I mean, we could just let a little bit slide, you know, so everyone's having a good time.
Do you want to petition me to let this slide in front of them, or should we have this conversation privately to present a united front?
Yeah, we're supposed to do the united front thing.
And he's not interested in the emotional maturity of his daughters. He's really just more their friend. Fig is absolutely not getting from Galir what she needs in that moment. Galir has at least verbally disowned her when the story starts.
I know that I said some hurtful things when I first found out.
Yeah, you said you're no longer a Faith. And guess what? I'm not. I'm just Fig now.
Which is really heavy and a terrible thing to happen to a teenager. Then on the other hand, she doesn't even have access to her biological father because she doesn't know who he is. Once again, an absent male figure. And then Saccharina, who thought that she was going to finally get what she never had, a family and a father. And when she finally finds her family, they basically reject her.
It's just that we have been through so much and have so little love in our hearts to give.
I am going to go celebrate with those who have stood by me. I will see you another time.
Something else that kind of goes hand in hand with the chaotic or strong-willed nature of these characters is that they all cover up their need for love from these male figures by acting really aggressive and sometimes aloof. They all clearly have a fear of being perceived as needy or weak.
I'm just stopping by. It's not a big deal.
And this aggression and aloofness often manifests as just pure rebellion. This is true of Jet and Fig, the two teenagers in Emily's group of characters.
I light up a cigarette.
Where the fuck did you get a cig? She snatches it out of your hand. Where did you get that?
I light up another.
God!
Book straps full of like cool, like illegal tomes about all the other places in Calorum, and I'm sort of using it like a ball and chain to just like hit any royal crests I see.
You gotta put the cigarette out while I'm in the room. While I'm in the room, you can't smoke.
I put it out in her coffee.
God damn it!
And what I think is really fun about Emily's characters is that it's not just exploring like the relationship between a man and a woman, but it's exploring what it means to be a powerful woman and love men. And I don't think that there's a lot of media telling that story right now.
There was a time in my life when I was supposed to choose myself, and it took me a long time.
I understand. You know, when you're a woman in this life, sometimes it takes a long time to be like, oh, I gotta choose myself sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Galir, come to the mirror with me. We need to do some affirmations, okay?
All right.
This is too sad. Look yourself in the mirror
and say, I am strong.
I am strong.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I believe in me. Come here.
Fabian made peace with his dad, all these wonderful things. I have the climax of my story that I need.
Young girl, absolutely.
Will you make Galera the vice principal?
I love it. I love it. I'm into it. Okay, so we've covered 4 people at the table. I would like to take a quick detour and to talk about Reka Shankar. Listen, she's only been in 3 seasons of Dimension 20, and none of them have been the Intrepid Heroes seasons, but they are the longer seasons in the kind of like interval seasons. I've called Reka the prodigal lover. Ooh, a twist. So once again, like, we know that these people are creating these characters. So if they're being typecast, they're typecasting themselves. The fact that it goes on with Reka is interesting. Like, it's clearly not limited to just the main cast. Reka's characters are Maggie from Bloodkeep, Daisy Dumbstare, and Katja Cleaver from The Seven. The reason I've called her characters the prodigal lover is that they all have aspects of what Siobhan's characters are doing and what Emily's characters are doing, and they combine them into one character. So for all of Reka's characters, the main male figure in their life is not necessarily absent, but he cannot give them what they want. So for Maggie, the main things that she's got going on in her life is that she's the girlfriend of the big evil dude.
You know, it's all news ever since, ever since he got crushed into a mouth and now he's a giant flaming mouth. Things haven't been the same.
For Katja, she's got her father, who is sort of trying, but also not enough at the beginning.
I don't know, I might have to miss your graduation.
And Katja is really sad, but one of the greatest courtesies she feels she can do to her father is not show that she is sad.
Then you've got Daisy, who has had this loss in her life since she gave up Sylvester. She clearly wanted to be happy with him, but he couldn't give her everything that she needed.
I forgive you.
You forgive me?
Sylvester, listen, you ain't gonna change anything about me. And I'm not gonna change for you. So you might as well give me up.
Each of their arcs is about accepting and dealing with this and finding their place with this male figure. Like, have I had to talk about Zach Oyama's existence with my therapist? Yes. I will not elaborate on that, actually. I've called Zach Oyama's characters the exception, and that does not mean exception to the rule that all of these characters have patterns among them. Before we move on with Zach, I need to explain to you what the game is. It's not the one where if I tell you about the game, then you've lost the game. I've always wondered about that game, like, why are people like, oh my gosh, you've lost the game, when they reminded you about the game, but like, they also reminded themselves about the game then. So didn't they also lose the game? Seems a bit hypocritical. How can you laugh at somebody else when you're the one who just made you both lose the game? I feel like there's a metaphor for like American politics in here somewhere, but I don't. I actually did a little bit of research about what the game of a scene or the game of a character is, like the true definition of it, and apparently it's actually a little bit controversial. So if you come from the Chicago School of Improv, I'm sorry. All right, so I'm gonna put the link to this article down below. According to UCB, if I'm not wrong, that is the school of improv that most of the College Humor cast comes from. The game is a consistent pattern of behavior that breaks from the everyday pattern of behavior. And that pattern is the thing that makes the scene / the character funny. So, for example, Katja's game, and Reka has even tweeted about this, Katja's whole game is that she loves horses. The girl will die for horses, she'll do anything for her horse. She loves her horses. That's her whole fucking thing. That's her game.
You're just so good at everything.
I love you, and there is no greater love than that a horse can have for her horse girl.
I found one. The one a horse girl has for a horse.
Katja Loving Horses is what I'm calling a high concept game. It's incredibly, it's one thing. If you can write it in one line, you get pretty much the whole character from that. That's a high concept game and that's a high concept character. Her game is horses. It's just horses. Zach has a similar thing going on where he's really high concept games. This is not true of anyone else in Dimension 20. They have particular quirks that their characters have, but it's not their whole fucking deal. For Zach's characters, it's their whole fucking deal. And just like with Katya, like you'd think that having a really high concept game being the most integral aspect of your character, you think that would get super boring, but it simply doesn't, because Zach Oyama is so talented. He's really good at what he does.
Whoo!
The reason why I call Zach's characters the exception is that not only do they have a high concept game where the main pattern of their behavior is very different from the rest of society's, but you can describe each of their games thusly. Their exterior does not match the interior of the person. You could be like, oh, that's true of all characters. Well, sort of, but not to the extent that Zach's characters are. Like, for example, if you take Sophia Lee, like, her exterior pretty much matches what's going on the inside. She's Staten Island lady, and that's true about her. She's a Staten Island lady.
I look like if Fran Drescher went on like an Amy Winehouse bender.
For Zach, the game of his characters are that they don't match their appearances. So for instance, we've got the paradigm of this idea, and that's Gorgug Thistlespring. Gorgug is a big boy. He's a big hulking boy. He's a half-orc, and he carries an axe. And in traditional fantasy, we would think that that means that he's a meanie and he's brutish. But in actuality, he has a very gentle soul. He's very socially awkward and concerned about what other people think of him.
I kind of don't have a lot of friends. I'm not good really talking to people. I like keeping to myself.
Then you've got Lapan. What Lapan appears to be is a stuffy advisor who is kind of caught up in his own little world.
We are all going to die. We're all going to die. We're all going to die.
But in actuality, he's incredibly conniving. He used to be a little thief rogue, and now he's a badass warlock of a sub-religion that's like banned by the Greater Concord.
We can all agree that this was very holy indeed. If people knew what I did and where I got my power, I would be dead.
Like, he badass.
I thought I kicked your ass earlier.
Then there's Cumulus, who's a monk. The real game of Cumulus is that he loves things.
We all know I like this stuff.
See, I'm in the same boat.
Kind of all I'm about.
Specifically magical things, but things nonetheless. He loves objects. And Zach Oyama is an absolute king of physical comedy, which is really funny because D&D is supposed to be theater of the mind, and Zach Oyama is out here just doing physical bits constantly. It's perfect for Cumulus. And Cumulus is a monk, and he's supposed to be an We think of monks as ascetic, people who completely give up material things, people who abstain from all forms of hedonism.
As a monk of my faith, I do not long for possessions.
But Cumulus just loves to like hold his powerful objects and cry.
Hey, yeah, if you want to buy one, go for it.
Come on.
Come on, what?
Come on, Swifty.
Can I just look at what you got?
Oh, you got them out of the building? They're yours? You're standing on the pile of them?
Swifty, I dispatched you to get them. Now I order you to let Cumulus play with them.
I'm gonna rip your nuts off. You better try.
It's literally the opposite of aestheticism. Aestheticism. Then we got Ricky, the hottest person on Earth. He literally has a higher armor class because he's so hot. It's a really good little homebrew thing they did there. It's very funny.
What weird homebrew bullshit is this, you fuck?
And you know, like the stereotype of incredibly attractive people, like people who are transcendently attractive, like Ricky is supposed to be, those people are usually kind of dicks. And Ricky's a bro.
All right, it's time to rise and grind.
And bros are usually misogynistic dicks. But Ricky is not. Ricky loves people. Ricky is the most pure and beautiful soul. There is no darkness. This has been confirmed. There is no darkness within the heart of Ricky Matsui.
Darkness reveal itself.
So,
Where is the darkness reveal?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it in there?
Look at this normally. Darkness reveal itself!
I get to take a couple steps closer, like...
Don't help me do this.
So all these characters have a discordant way of operating in the world.
That situation is insane.
Yeah, okay, do you want a calendar?
They're never truly let into the social fold. The other PCs make the mistake of assuming that Zach's characters appearance matches their personality. Also, something that marks the exception character, the Oyama character, is a lack of self-awareness. Either they don't fully understand how social cues work, or they don't understand the impression that they make on people.
Well, I'm just doing what anyone would have done.
Nobody would have swam from Manhattan to Staten Island. Nobody would have swam from Manhattan to Staten Island.
Oh, okay.
That is bordering on super heroic.
This, once again, is part of the game. It's part of the game of Riki Matsui. It's part of Gorgug's game.
Gorgug, dude, he's the tallest person here.
I'm holding a metal flower. I'm like, looking for a friend.
You could also argue that it's part of Cumulus and Lapan's games, because neither of them really give a shit that what other people care about them. They're just gonna do their own thing. Gorgug's arc in season 2 is all about gaining self-awareness and realizing that he's not like the gawky, awkward teenager that he used to think he was. And that maybe he doesn't have to always behave like that person anymore. And also, he's a lot smarter than he thinks, and he can have a lot more self-confidence than he used to have.
It's Gorgug, keep going, and just drop it on the ground in case anyone catches.
Oh, man.
Part 8. I forgot to say all the parts before, but I remembered because I had a break because my camera died. And then this is part 8 when we talk about Allie Beardsley. I've called Allie Beardsley's archetype the kid. There's a lot of talk in the Dimension 20 Reddit that Allie Beardsley's characters have protagonist energy. And I think that is true. All of Allie Beardsley's characters' arcs are one of coming of age. Each of their characters have a lot to learn about themselves and the world in general. Again, let's review who we're talking about here. First off, we've got Kristen Applebees. She's been living in a conservative religious bubble up until the story starts.
You're gonna be going to a school with, elves and...
Mom, I think your and Dad's stance is racist.
Okay.
You're only for humans who look like you. Have you ever looked at all your friends, Mom? Do any of them look different?
How can I be racist against an elf? I never met one. I don't even know an elf.
Exactly.
Then there's Liam Wilhelmina, who doesn't really understand his place within his family or the world. He is just awkwardly trying to navigate the fact that he is a current ward of the state of Candia.
Liam, flirt with me.
I think you're probably ready to take it.
Pretty good.
And he's coming to terms with his sexuality. He turns 18 in the story, which I don't think is a coincidence. Then you've got the biggest protagonist energy of them all, which is Pete. Pete the Plug. Pete, as Allie describes him, is a mess at the beginning of the Unsleeping City.
I am not doing well.
His big arc really happens in season 1, where he is just trying to learn who he is within the Unsleeping City, but also in general.
Who did you give a piece of yourself to? I start crying.
He's clearly facing ego death when we find him at the beginning of the story. He's gone through a breakup. He gets kicked out. He sees his transphobic dad again. There's a whole lot going on.
You're crazy, boy.
No.
So now you're going to be out on the street.
No, come on.
Pete does get the Harry Potter treatment in Unsleeping City.
Hey, Pete. Reflection in the ceiling goes, how's it going? I'm real.
It's going... Honestly, I feel like I can be really honest with you. I miss her, and I deleted her number out of my phone. But then I found it in our early Instagram exchanges, and I re-added it. And I've already texted her this morning.
Okay, magic's real. Everything's about to change for you.
Do you think she read the text? Or?
Which is funny because Sophia is also new to the Unsleeping City.
Look, I just found out magic is real too. It's a real fucking dick to the face, if you know what I mean.
Yet Pete is the one who gets the real initiation. For each of these characters, their initial perception of themselves is completely uprooted by the end of the story. And they also experience a total change in worldview. All of Allie's characters experience epiphanies about the nature of reality or the cosmos, and their relation to it.
So people are so hell-bent on using their time alive to either homage creation or destruction, but wouldn't change be the only thing that the living have to do with? I want to see its true form.
Its true form is not this.
What is it?
I mean, that kind of arc, it's so grand. The scale is so huge and vast. And of course, Allie is going to have big protagonist energy because of it. The reason Pete isn't really the protagonist of Unsleeping City Season 2 is because in Season 2, his arc is kind of complete, and now he's just grappling with bigger questions. And it's still fun to follow, but it's no longer like the origin story.
Things are a little slow.
Word.
And I'm still getting used to that, you know? And that's not boring. That's normal.
Yeah. I mean,
not boring.
You're making a big shift from what your life used to be to what your life is now, all right? And that takes some adjustment, that takes some growth, and growth is always going to be uncomfortable because it's different.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
And you might be like, well, Liam isn't the protagonist. Does he really have protagonist energy? And I would argue that Liam would absolutely be the protagonist if they were in a different genre. Liam would be a perfect protagonist in, say, a YA fantasy novel, but the fact that they're basically doing Game of Thrones in A Crown of Candy, Liam is not the protagonist of that story. He does not have the political cunning or the birthright to be at the very center of that story.
I'll have my dad, Yoren Jawbreaker, personally thank you and shake your hand. And sign anything that you want him to sign. He's got a lot of merch. He's got a lot of books about Kama Sutra. And between him and his partners' partners, there are over 35 sexy singles of any sexuality or gender that you could desire. And you would get eaten alive, upside down by that group. Eaten alive, Annabelle. They would turn you inside out and eat you alive.
But he still goes through a huge arc, and that is something that is true of all of Allie Beardsley's characters. They're very good at creating characters that have a deep need, experience a change, and also learn something about the world as a whole along the way.
The bulb does not consider you. You are nothing to it. The hungry one also doesn't consider you. You're nothing to that as well.
You sprint towards them. Make a wisdom saving throw for me. DC 21.
Nat 20.
Allie, I'm gonna be real with you. If you had rolled a 19, you'd be fucking dead. This thing is so vast. The size of it, it is bigger than Nod, bigger than New York, bigger than anything. Its form is formless, its mass is massless. It extends from here into the deep, dark depths of the dreaming forever.
The one exception to this, I will say, is Lars from Mice and Murder. They may have the same kind of naivete that all the other Allie Beardsley characters start out with at the beginning of the story.
I can tell, of course, Sergeant, that you are yourself a Gemini.
You were so close. Oh my gosh, you were freakishly close.
Don't tell me. Sagittarius.
Oh my gosh, you're a bit farther and it makes it more fun. You'll get so
No. Those were both jokes. Scorpio.
No.
But there's not nearly as much of an arc for Lars. I think it was clear that Allie wanted to do a season in which they were fully a sidekick, and that's what Lars is designed to be. Lars is designed to be a sidekick to Grant's character Sylvester, and it works.
I bound down the hall after her. I'm so excited.
All right, so do you believe me now? Do you believe me now? One of the reasons I wanted to do this video is I don't see a lot of serious analysis of Dimension 20, and I think that we should do more of that. And that's probably true of all actual play shows. I don't watch Critical Role, so I don't know what's going on with them, but I'm sure similar things are happening. I'm no fan of auteur theory. I really loathe the idea that we need to view collaborative media through the lens of a single individual and what they wanted the art to be. But, we can have a little auteur theory as a treat. And in this case, the auteurs are the cast members of Dimension 20. So yeah, think about D20's art, because why not?
It's that damn meat.
That freaked out meat.
That freaked meat, dude. Freak of meat. Keisha.
No!
Oh my God.
Freak of me. Moni.
Christina. Freak of me. Oh, I'm just imagining a giant meep in a
Oh
club.
yeah. That meep's ass and a thong. Wake up!